We are, Nicole, doing what I have called committing superpower suicide.
Explain that.
Well, until a year ago, the United States was unquestionably the world's leading superpower. And among our greatest strengths were not only our economy, but our national security, our defense, our development assistance, our diplomacy, and our greatest asset, arguably, on top of the traditional hard power assets, was our network of alliances and partnerships, which is what China and Russia have long envied. No matter how powerful China becomes, no matter how aggressive Russia becomes, neither of them have ever had in Europe and Asia the network of alliances and partnerships that the United States has enjoyed and nurtured since World War II. It is, in many ways, our superpower. And what Trump has done methodically is to undermine and deconstruct the strength of those alliances. What holds those alliances together are shared values and trust. Mm-hmm. And trust has been broken.
We're back with Director Brennan, Michael, and Rick. So, Rick, I interviewed Susan Rice today for my podcast. It'll be out later this week. But this idea, she just perfectly articulates how dramatic it is. Superpower suicide.
It is dramatic. I do agree with everything she said. But I want to come to Mark Carney's speech there, which I think is the most important speech by a world leader in the last decade. Because he Because he addresses these issues. And he said, and it's painful, it'll be painful for John to hear, it'll be painful for Mike to hear. He said, never ever use the term rules-based world order again, because it doesn't really exist. He said there was always a lie at the heart of it, which was that superpowers didn't really have to obey the rules. Russia didn't, China didn't. It was kept whole by U.S. power, U.S. dominance, U.S. values. But now when you have the U.S. committing suicide and not following those rules-based orders, we need a new system. He really went right at it, I think, in a way of saying that old system was riddled with hypocrisy. Donald Trump, in a way, has exposed the hypocrisy by being such a malevolent actor himself, and now we need a new system. So one of the things that he was saying is that all of these countries need to be much more independent and not rely on that globalized trading order that we always were a champion of. What did Mark Carney do this past week? He signed a bilateral trade agreement with China for electric cars. That hurts the U.S. He's saying people have to make their own agreements. They have to band together because they have plenty of power. The EU is our largest trading partner. We do $1 trillion of trade with them a year. They have huge bargaining power. That hurts American consumers. So when Trump inflicts a tariff, inflicts it on them, it's inflicted on us, right? Because, as the Wall Street Journal said, 96% of the cost are paid by U.S. consumers. Yeah. They're not using their leverage. And Carney was saying that, this transatlantic alliance that Susan was talking about, that we're so proud of, that has kept the peace for 80 years, he's saying it doesn't really exist anymore.
But what was before Trump is no more. Director Brennan, how does that impact things that aren't as public, the very opaque world of intelligence gathering and national security?
Well, it's a tremendous impact. And to pick up on Rick's point, what's so ironic is that international global architecture that Trump is so insulting of and dismissive of, the United States has benefited more than any other country since World War II as a result of that international global architecture. And we have these intelligence relationships around the globe that help our national security. We have developed them over time. I worked very closely with the Danes and all of the various NATO country intelligence and security services. And they relied heavily on us, but we relied heavily on them as well. And again, the devastating impact on the trust that these countries have now in the United States, that they see the United States pursuing policies that are solely in U.S. interests and are detrimental to others, it really does undermine the respect, the trust that these countries and these services have had toward the United States. So again, Donald Trump will one day leave the political stage, but the impact on what is happening to our relationships, particularly to our NATO alliance, the alliance that really has kept the United States and European countries and the world safe over the last 75 years or so, the impact, I think, is going to be so long lasting that it's unfortunate that Donald Trump has had the opportunity to do this, and which is going to be felt across the political, military, intelligence, and security spheres.
Institutions and friendships that have kept Americans safe for more than half a century. First, a little level set for you. This is what American leaders usually sound like at Davos, an annual gathering of world leaders and government officials and titans of business and media.
After the Second War, the leaders were given a second chance. This time it was clear that what was at stake was not simply the return of prosperity, but the defense of freedom. They chose the path of economic and political partnership and set the stage for 50 years of growth across the globe.
Through 6 decades and 12 American presidents, the United States and Europe have faced monumental challenges and have overcome them together. Because transatlantic ties held strong against the forces of fascism and imperial communism, our nations have been able to thrive in the pursuit of peace.
Our careful, and I mean careful, attention to building and sustaining the liberal international world order with the United States and Europe at its core was the bedrock of the success the world enjoyed in the second half of the 20th century.
So that was Democrats and Republicans speaking about normal things in a normal way, again, to this World Economic Forum. Then came Donald Trump. He did rule out using force to seize Greenland, a territory of a NATO ally, Denmark, but that cannot be the bar for us as a country. Ruling out invading an American ally cannot be the bar by which a president of the United States is judged in any news cycle, ever. But here he is, claiming Greenland should belong to him in the United States because of World War II, of course.
We weren't fighting for anyone else. We were fighting to save it for Denmark. Big, beautiful piece of ice. It's hard to call it land. It's a big piece of ice. But we saved Greenland and successfully prevented our enemies from gaining a foothold in our hemisphere. So we did it for ourselves also. And then after the war, which we won it big. Without us, right now you'd all be speaking German and a little Japanese, perhaps. After the war, we gave Greenland back to Denmark. How stupid were we to do that? But we did it. But we gave it back. But how ungrateful are they now?
Where to begin? Trump also confused Greenland with Iceland. Not once, not twice, not 3 times either, but 4 times. Here's what that sounded like.
So with all of the money we expend, with all of the blood, sweat, and tears, I don't know that they'd be there for us. They're not there for us on Iceland, that I can tell you. I mean, our stock market took the first dip yesterday because of Iceland. So Iceland's already cost us a lot of money. But that dip is peanuts compared to what it's gone up.
Damn you, Iceland. Pepper in a few references to windmills, falsehoods about migrants, lies about a rigged 2020 election, and it was the full poo-poo platter of the Trump shtick. California's Governor Gavin Newsom was seen laughing at parts of Trump's speech. Here's what he had to say afterward.
Did it stand out to you that he said Iceland multiple times when he was talking about Greenland?
And that every time a windmill turns, it costs $1,000. A lot of stuff stands out. None of this is normalized. There's a normalization of deviancy and consciousness and, comments and commentary. And no other president, he's held to the curve. He's graded on a curve. I mean, it's really some jaw-dropping and remarkable statements that just, fly in the face of facts and evidence and common sense. So, but you've heard them over and over and over again. Again, for the European audience, that may have been a new speech. My God, there wasn't anything new about that speech for the American audience.
As for the rest of the world and how they see us right now today, well, the Bulwark puts it like this, quote, everyone else seems to get the message. The world has realized it may have to go on without America's leadership.
Donald was clearly caught off guard today. World leaders, especially NATO leaders, pushed back against him and made it clear that if he kept behaving the way he was, he'd be shown the door. That seemed to snap him back, at least temporarily, into a slightly more grounded position. Now, with Trump, that reset might last a day, 2 days, 2 hours, or maybe a couple of weeks at most before he does something outrageous again, probably tied to Denmark or whatever strange fixation comes next. But in this moment, it seems like he understands how catastrophic this could be for his legacy. Trump is a strange contradiction. On one hand, he makes so many reckless and intentionally bad decisions that it's easy to wonder how he could possibly care about how history remembers him. On the other hand, he's deeply obsessed with his image and legacy. That obsession explains why he slaps his name on everything, not just Trump Towers from his business days, but also projects tied to his presidency. Why rebuild the ballroom? Why install plaques with his own words? Why push to put his name on the Kennedy Center? It all comes from a deep insecurity about how he'll be remembered. Those insecurities likely trace back to his upbringing, especially his relationship with his father, who never seemed to truly show him love or approval. Whether his father loved him or not, Trump clearly didn't feel valued, and that left a lifelong sense of inadequacy. That pain drives his need to be the biggest, the best, and the most visible, with his name everywhere. At its core, it's about how history will judge him after he's gone. And what he may finally be realizing is that he risks being remembered as the president who single-handedly undermined America's superpower status, something the country built steadily from the late 19th century, solidified during World War II, and maintained through the Cold War. Trump seems to understand that if he keeps alienating NATO and America's allies, that destruction of U.S. global leadership will define his legacy.